WDIS, or What Do I See, is an easy way to teach students how to work with primary and secondary sources. I'm going to take you through a few examples so that you can see how this strategy works. Now, with WDIS, you want to present an image or a source that students can work with. You can present this up on the screen, you can present it on a Jamboard like what I have here, or you can give a paper copy to students. The next step is to simply list what do I see? And you can do this lots of different ways. You can generate a written list, maybe up on the board or on some scratch paper, or you can go through and circle the items. So I'm going to demonstrate by going through and circling the items first, and then I will show you what the generating a list looks like. So with WDIS, or what do I see, it just means label everything that you see. Mark out, speak out, point out every detail that you notice. So in this image, we have trees, we have this building, there's a wall in here, there's clouds, it looks like a nice day, and that hits a lot of them. So then what I would suggest is that you create a list. Okay, so we have a sunny day, clouds, we have a building, there are trees, and then we have a stone wall. Now, this is a pretty general type of response for what you see. The goal with this is that you go into more detail. So, when we look at the sunny day in the clouds, what could that tell us about it? Perhaps this is in spring, or maybe it's summer. Then we look at the building. On the building, I notice that it has different architecture. So, it has curved roofs, lots of floors or levels. It's mostly white. Okay. The trees, if you notice, have flowers on them. And I know that these are cherry blossom trees, so I could put that in for details if I want. And then the stone wall seems to be building it up somewhere, somehow. Okay. So then the next step of WDIS, after you pick the details out of the photo, is to start asking questions. So with these type of trees, we have cherry blossom trees. Where in the world would we find these? We know as adults that we're going to find them in Japan and different parts of Asia. So that can be a clue for us. This building back here, if we look at the architecture, appears to have architecture that was found in Asia back in history. So that gives us another clue. And we keep taking these clues and building upon them to figure out what is going on. Now, for those of you who are interested, this is Himeji Castle in Japan. It's a feudal castle that was built back in the 1300s. But those are things that you could start leading your students to finding while you do this WDIS process. You can also do WDIS with written sources, written materials. So on this one, this is a speech, which we would note because it says speech up here. Okay, so I would request that my students mark it in. There's some background information to know about to read through, and then we have a source. We have our chief here of a tribe who is an ally of the French, and he's talking with a gentleman who happens to be British, and it's in 1761. Now, just for a little bit of background, this speech is given when we are looking into the French and Indian War. So that date is going to be important because we know that comes near the end of the war. Then what we do is we look through here and we look for words that we might not understand. So retaliate, allaying, there's other ones in here, of course. And these can be words that either students don't know or are unfamiliar with how they're being used in here. Then the next phase comes in to actually go in and identify the different types of elements that are important within the information itself. So, Englishmen, although you have conquered the French, you have not yet conquered us. So, you've conquered the French, not yet conquered us. Okay, lots of information on here. It's our custom to retaliate. Okay. Wherefore he and we are still at war. King of France is the only friend. All these different pieces you could grab on here. And then you could talk about it. What is happening in this situation? What is the chief saying? Why is this so important when we're considering the French and Indian War? What effects would this meeting have had? Lots of different questions and things that you could generate as you go through. And then one last example I wanted to show you is you can also complete this process using maps. And again, you go in and you mark the items that you believe to be important. And I'm going to switch colors since it's a mostly blue and green map. Okay, so one thing that might be important is understanding this is a world population map from 2008. So we know it's a bit outdated. That's an important thing to keep in mind. Here's our key or our legend. Right here, we have our highest population. Here's some of our lowest population. Might be interesting to note that there's another low population right here on the coast. Interesting on where we live. Lots of different items. And then you can generate and talk about, make these reflections and different things. So that's the idea of WDIS, or what do I see? Start with a source, talk about what you see. You can also do this with auditory examples. So what do I hear? But you talk through it, you pick out those details, and then you use those details as clues to generate questions. So this could be with the question formulation technique. Generate those questions and then continue on in your search and research for discovery of new information.